Welcome to Red Hunt, where I bring you the juiciest relationship Reddit stories straight from the depths of the internet. So sit back, listen closely, and prepare to dive into the whirlwind of love, heartbreak, and everything in between. Let the hunt begin. Am I the antagonist for blaming my parents for how difficult things are at home? I am a 16-year-old female with a younger brother who is 14 years old and a younger sister who is 11 years old. Both of my siblings are on the autism spectrum. My brother tends to have more frequent outbursts and often breaks things. My sister is nonverbal, but sometimes she also gets overwhelmed and ends up breaking stuff. I don't feel like my parents do enough to prevent the damage or protect our belongings. My things get broken way too often, and there's nothing I can do to completely protect them. It took until I was 12 for my parents to agree to buy me a lock for my door, but my brother broke it within 3 months. It took my parents 11 months to replace it, and they gave me a hard time about it. However, they also blame me for the damage done by my siblings in my room. They never help me clean up, and they expect me to take care of it all. And most of the time, when something gets destroyed, they refuse to buy a replacement and tell me to take better care of my stuff. I'm now using my third laptop, the last two of which were bought by my grandparents. My closet is almost empty because my clothes keep getting destroyed. My bed has been broken a couple of times, and my posters and even homework have been ruined by my brother's destructive actions. To add to the frustration, my mom gave my favorite cup to my sister and it got broken. My grandparents gave it to me when I was 5, and I felt really sad losing it. Then my dad expected me to wash his car after my brother covered it in paint. I had already spent a lot of time cleaning up my room that day, in addition to my regular chores. I've reached a point where being around my siblings only makes me more frustrated. I know it's not their fault, so I don't want to lose my temper with them, but it's possible that resentment has built up over time. My parents keep nagging me about spending more time with my siblings and being a better sister, like I was 5 years ago. Also, I don't feel the same love and respect from my parents that is typically expected from children. A couple of weeks ago, my parents asked me for help. They wanted to do some work around the house and wanted me to entertain my siblings while they did the tasks. I refused to help them because I felt they didn't deserve it. I told them that they had taken out their frustrations on me, even though I had no control over the situation, while they did. I expressed my belief that they hadn't done enough, and it feels like every gift I receive is just the start of punishment, because they always blame me for being irresponsible when one of my siblings breaks something. I also pointed out that they expect so much from me but won't put in the effort to protect or help me. In response, my parents said I had an awful attitude and that they were just doing their best as humans. They yelled at me for a long time, and I could still hear them even in my sleep that night. Things have been even more difficult since then. Am I the asshole? It's understandable that you feel frustrated and overwhelmed by the constant damage caused by your siblings. Your parents should be taking responsibility for preventing these incidents and supporting you more, rather than putting the burden solely on your shoulders. Help me navigate my relationship with my mom, who talks nonstop and barely listens. I have a great relationship with my mom. She's always been supportive and given me good advice when I'm feeling down. However, lately, our conversations have been mostly one-sided. She talks nonstop, with only about 5% of the conversation being me talking and the rest just me nodding along. In 2020, I had a small intervention with her because I needed her advice. I had just gotten laid off and was considering moving to a different city. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a word in edgewise and ended up texting her later to let her know that I couldn't get any advice during our call. Nowadays, she does make an effort to ask about things like whether I found a new job. However, I can only share a couple of sentences before she goes off on a long monologue about something unrelated, like the types of salad greens at the farmer's market. Recently, I've been feeling quite upset. After many years of being single, I'm planning to introduce my new partner to my parents in March. I called them a few days ago to announce my visit and share the news about my boyfriend. However, my mom already deduced that I had a boyfriend from context clues and started talking about unrelated things like going to the grocery store and a new neighbor getting stuck in a ditch. I was frustrated and felt interrupted. When my dad asked about my boyfriend's job, I gave a brief answer, but I was already frustrated by my mom changing the subject. I mentioned that my mom seemed too busy driving, and she agreed, saying she had to go to the grocery store immediately. After ending the call, I cried for about an hour because I just wanted to share this big change in my life with my parents. I thought they would be interested in hearing about my boyfriend, especially since I've been single and lonely for so long. I had a whole speech prepared, expressing how important he is to me and how much they would like him. But none of that happened, and my mom didn't ask any questions. She was just pleased with herself for figuring out my surprise and promptly moved on to a different topic, mostly about herself. It made me realize that if I were announcing something even bigger, like being pregnant or engaged, I wouldn't have had a chance to say anything before being interrupted. Am I wrong for feeling upset about being interrupted like that? It's completely understandable for you to be upset about being constantly interrupted and unable to share important news with your mom. It can be really frustrating when conversations become one-sided and you feel like your thoughts and experiences aren't being heard or acknowledged. Maybe try having a calm and honest conversation with her about how you feel and see if there's a way to find a better balance in your interactions. Wife secretly messaging ex-BF. thought on how to handle this situation? My wife, 35, and I, 35, have been together for 10 years and have 2 children. Before we met, she had only been in one serious relationship that lasted over 2 years, with a few short flings here and there. At the time, she thought he was the one until she found out he had kissed another woman. However, she continued the relationship for another year before it finally ended. We are pretty open about our sex life, and when she told me how often they were intimate and the things they did, I have to admit, it did hurt me a bit, as she isn't as open about these things with me. Now, here's the problem. Her father passed away in January, and she flew overseas to say goodbye and stayed there for 3 weeks. When she returned, she seemed a bit different, which is understandable given her loss. But something just feels off. We are both Chinese, but I am what we refer to as an American-born Chinese and do not speak the language. She always communicates with me in English. 2 nights ago, she said she had a headache and was feeling confused before going to bed. Later that night, we have a little game where I give her a massage to see if we're both in the mood. I know it's not the best approach, but my justification is that it had been almost a month since our last intimate moment. During the massage, she started speaking in Mandarin with her eyes closed. It was a bit strange, but she had been in China for 3 weeks, so it wasn't completely surprising. However, last night she had trouble sleeping. She was on the phone constantly and behaving erratically, which was unusual for her. Before I fell asleep, she was on the phone facing away from me and would hide it under her pillow whenever she finished using it. This went on for hours until I eventually fell asleep. I woke up earlier than her, and something just didn't feel right. So I made the mistake of checking her phone. I know it's a big no-no. I found that she had been messaging her ex a lot, but I couldn't read the messages as they were in Chinese. It was her serious ex from the past. When she got up, I used an excuse to see her phone and look at photos from her trip to China, but it wasn't a great excuse. I noticed that she had completely deleted her message history with her ex. If she hadn't deleted those messages, I would straightforwardly ask if everything is okay, but now that she has deleted them completely, I don't know if I'm overthinking things. Also, her ex is no longer in the States, and I have no idea where he is now. Is this a cause for concern? Hey, sorry to hear you're going through a rough time with your wife's behavior. It definitely sounds like there are some suspicious things happening, especially with her deleting messages and talking to her ex. Trust your gut and consider having an open conversation with her about your concerns. I heard from multiple sources that my boyfriend cheated. Well, we have been together for 2 years. I love him a lot, but I am very distressed because he is lying about this girl Sally. I love him, he is perfect, and otherwise, things are great. I do not want to lose him, and I do not want to believe that he is lying to me, but something does not add up. It has been a nightmare to be confronted, but I still do not know anything for sure at all. First, one day my boyfriend told me people were gossiping about him, sleeping with Sally, and ending their relationship without explanation. He said she was lying and did not know why people were saying that. So naturally, I asked my boyfriend if he knew her. He told me that she had been to his house twice with their mutual friend Brad. He never mentioned this prior to hearing these rumors, but said he did not think anything of it. I did not think much of it either. But without going into detail or accusing my boyfriend, I asked Brad if he knows Sally because I heard they all had fun hanging out at my boyfriend's house. He says that never happened. He has been to my boyfriend's house before, but never with a girl. I confronted my boyfriend with this, asking if he cheated on me, and he says, Brad must have been drunk, and maybe I was just thinking of the one time they came over. I am confused. I do not remember that well. However, he admitted she flirted with him, and he turned her down, and she seemed upset. Now this is where things get weird. Someone I do not know approached me out of the blue while I was out drinking. They said, your boyfriend is probably cheating on you with Sally. I spoke with Sally personally and Sally's friend Belle. They said they all hung out, and Sally went to his house after. Sally says they slept together. Just thought someone should tell you. I did not want to dig, so I messaged Sally. She told me she had a boyfriend the whole time and denies saying anything. She says it is a rumor, and she does not know who started it. It gets weirder. When I did not think I could do anything else to verify, a friend of mine admitted she knew for months that my boyfriend and Sally left the bar together with Sally's friend Belle. My friend decided not to tell me, instead told my friend group who told me. So I confronted her and she admitted what she saw was true. Still, she never told me. She is no longer my friend if she told everyone this but me. Note, she tends to lie or exaggerate. As for my boyfriend, he claims he is innocent, seems honest and distressed. He says he never hung out with Sally and Belle that night and that I will never find any evidence because he is innocent. He does not admit to having any issues with her other than her being upset that he turned her down. Yet around the time people claim this happened, he was acting a bit strange. There was a huge increase in his sex drive and he was drinking a lot. He was very sweet. He also seems to have an explanation for many questions. She may have seen my tattoos on his thighs. He might have shown her as he shows everyone. She and Brad came to my room for a minute. As for me, I talked to him every time I was approached. Rookie mistake, I know. Okay, you might be thinking the trust is broken, break up. I would just like to point out that as of now, I do trust him. I do believe him, but then I question if I am being naive. I tend to trust people until I know without a doubt. It sounds like there are a lot of conflicting stories and information going on. I can understand why you're feeling distressed and unsure about what to believe. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide what feels right and whether you trust your boyfriend's explanation or not. Just make sure to take care of yourself in the process. Am I overthinking? My boyfriend, who is 32 years old, has been communicating with a girl he used to have casual relationships with. He claims that they are just friends, but she has been behaving in a deceitful manner and posting mocking content about me and our relationship. At the start of our relationship, my boyfriend asked me to remove any male friends from my social media accounts, regardless of the nature of our relationship or how long we had been friends. I complied with his request to make him feel comfortable. However, I did express to him that I expected him to do the same and remove any women he had previously been involved with or flirted with, as I believed that that was a reasonable boundary to set. I trusted that he followed through, even though he still followed or was friends with numerous women on social media. I assumed he had cut off ties with women he had a sexual or flirtatious history with. Deep down, I felt like he was projecting his own insecurities onto me. Although I also have trust issues, I chose not to dwell on it and wanted to make him feel at ease. He would question me about every man I followed before I unfollowed them, and he repeatedly asked if we had ever flirted or hooked up. I never felt the need to do the same because I trusted him. Recently, I discovered that he had been communicating with a girl he used to flirt and hook up with via Snapchat and messages. I asked him to remove her and he claimed he did, but it turns out he was still communicating with her. I feel hurt by this because setting this boundary was the only request I had ever made, and I felt like he had established strict rules for me that he couldn't follow himself. Upon discovering this, I asked him to show me his Snapchat, where I noticed that he was also talking to other women. I didn't read the messages, but he has repeatedly insisted to me and his friends, including this past weekend, that he only used Snapchat to communicate with his friend who does not use other social media platforms. I have never gone through his phone before, despite him frequently doing so with mine, so I was unaware that his statement was untrue. He continues to accuse me of being crazy and insecure for feeling bothered by this situation. I am uncertain whether I am overreacting or not. I feel awful for suspecting him of being dishonest and potentially betraying myself. I have never objected to him having female friends, as we have spent time with his female friends on numerous occasions. However, in this particular situation, these were girls I had never met or known about on his Snapchat, and I am unsure if my feelings of insecurity are unjustified. What are your thoughts on this? No, you're not overthinking. It's understandable to feel hurt and betrayed when your boyfriend sets strict boundaries for you, but doesn't follow them himself. Trust and open communication are important in a relationship, so it's important to have a conversation with him about how this makes you feel and address your concerns. Am I the antagonist for wanting my BF to pay me $6,000? Last December, my boyfriend lost his job. It was really bad timing because in the same week, his bank account got frozen for a fraud alert and he couldn't access any of his money. He was freaking out because he had rent due the next day, so I transferred it to him and told him not to worry. It's never happened before and I assumed it wouldn't happen again. And we've been together 3 years, so I didn't mind temporarily spotting him the $2,000. We don't live together. Then, a couple hours later, he asked me if I could spot him another $2,000 for a student loan payment that he needed to pay. I was uncomfortable about this, but did it anyway, thinking it was just a really crappy temporary situation with his account being frozen. He also asked for a $500 loan for another pressing payment, which I paid. You get the idea. Anyway, he still has not given me back any of this money. He has since gotten a new job, however his bank account is still frozen, so he's putting the new funds in a new bank account. Every time I ask him when he will pay me back, he says he either doesn't have the money yet, or he doesn't have any left over after paying rent and other expenses. I'm getting extremely frustrated because when I first loaned him the cash, he said he'd pay me back in a week. Then he said as soon as he gets his new job. Then he said on January 30th, when he gets his first paycheck. Again, you get the idea. I feel bad for asking because I believe him when he says he doesn't have it. But I'm also so upset because I'm a full-time grad student only working part-time, and I have handed him over the majority of my savings since I've been paying for school. It's been a huge strain in our relationship and I'm trying to be understanding, but I don't think it's fair that I've given him $4,500 and still have not gotten it back in almost 3 months. There was also a recent $600 that was his responsibility to pay, but I paid for him, and over the years I've given him $750 in bets that he has turned around, but has not given me back the deposits for. I'm asking him to pay me the $5,850, or it's over. I don't think I have it in me to have this much struggle in my life, even if the circumstances were not necessarily his fault. Am I the asshole for this? It's completely understandable that you're frustrated and feeling taken advantage of in this situation. It's important to set boundaries and prioritize your own financial stability and well-being. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.